I'm Wendy Zelazny, the Vice President of Membership here at the Fredericksburg Regional Chamber of Commerce, and I'm here with David Stocks, the owner of Stocks General Contractors. Did I get it right?
You got it.
All right. So David's been a member for quite a while, and I really enjoyed meeting with him because he is an incredible networker. He came to us and visited a few of our events first. A lot of our legislative events actually was what David came to, and I thought that was interesting also. He takes an interest in business, but from a more universal point of view. He's a third generation construction person. His family, his grandparents, his uncles, his dad, everyone in his family's in construction, but interestingly enough, they're masons. And 20 years ago, he was introduced to underground utilities, and that turned out to be the love of his life. So, other than your wife, I'm sure. But as far as work goes, that's the love of his life. And can you talk a little bit about what that is? Because most people think of contractors, construction now, they think of home building, remodeling a kitchen, things like that, but you're a whole different animal.
Yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate it. So a good way to explain what we do is if you live in this area and you travel up 95,
Mm-hmm.
you go north or south, you see all the work that's happening with expanding the express lanes.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of what's called underground utilities.
Yes.
Right? So
Mm-hmm.
it's the stuff that people don't even see most of the time or know about. It's carrying away the wastewater, so sanitary sewer, storm water, so when it rains, so it doesn't flood the roadways and everybody's hydroplaning and having
Mm-hmm.
accidents all
Mm-hmm.
over the place.
Mm-hmm.
It also involves water, right, so that we can drink and things of that nature.
Oh, interesting.
Yep, there's electrical as well, so anything that's like ran for REC, Rappahannock Electric, Dominion Power, any of these other things. Then there's telecommunications, so that'd be your Comcast, your Cox, or all these different things. Then there's gas as well.
Wow.
Yeah, so there's
Yeah.
a lot. So we specialize water, sewer, storm, electrical, and telecommunications conduits.
Wow.
So there's a lot of different components of underground utility construction. So one being safety is a very huge thing.
Yes.
I mean, it's since you're putting stuff in the ground, you don't want the trench to collapse and things of that nature.
Yeah, that
so
would
we
be
use
bad.
shoring, things of that nature. But that's the gist of it. Is when you're driving down the road, 9 times out of 10, you're driving over top of the type of work we do.
That's really interesting. So for you, is it more? It's more civil, not so much like the homeowner,
That's
or
correct.
unless you're doing. Do you do any work with the big developments or multifamily communities that we have here? Is that also something you're doing?
Yes. So when we do that, so we're a civil construction company,
Right.
So
Yeah.
we underground utilities is like the specialty, the meat and the potatoes. But we do earthwork, we do site concrete. So, for instance, in a whole neighborhood, we could come in for a HOA or developer and do the sidewalks all around, do the curb, the gutter. And,
okay.
we'll
I
do
didn't realize
some
that.
asphalt as well. We're not like your Virginia paving or your
Right.
Superior where we do miles and miles of roadway, but we'll do some. But for the most part, it's like we call it a site package, like site work.
Oh, I see.
Right. So not so much landscaping.
Right.
But, there's a lot of, especially now with the the EPA and different environmental agencies coming in, we've got a lot of what's called bioretention facilities.
Yes.
Right. So we do those as well.
Oh, that's interesting. So when you're going to get a job, is that job coming to you from? Are you a subcontractor typically on a larger project? You're handling that piece of the project.
Yes.
And is it a government contract frequently, or is it more just coming from another contractor?
So they vary, right? So some of the time they're private, which means, like, for instance, if they were remodeling this building here,
Yes,
and
it
they
would be
wanted to
private.
put new utilities, then I would do that for whoever the big general contractor is. But then there's times also where that big general contractor gets a contract on a military base, such as Quantico Marine Corps Base, Fort Detrick, up in Frederick, Maryland, and then Joint Base Anacostia Bowling.
Yes.
Joint Base Myers Henderson Hall, and I have contracts on all 4 of those bases currently.
So do you have a clearance? Do you have to have a clearance to work on those?
You don't
or
have to
not?
have a clearance. They use something called D-bids, right? Which is basically just run a background check, make sure you're decent, and that you can get on base, and then you get a contractor badge, right? So actually, when I leave here, I'm going to Joint Base Meyer Henderson Hall to check on one of my projects. But you don't. It would depend on which level of project or where on the base you're going.
I see.
It depends on your access. So the access we need most of the time is not, TSCI
Secret,
or something like that. Yeah.
That's what I wondered. Because the reason I asked is I wondered about workforce. Have you found workforce to be an issue for you? I know that's an issue for a lot of businesses now.
Yeah, so it's an issue depending on where we're working. So we've been asked to work at, for the U.S. government, like CAA, Langley, and those projects like that are U.S. citizens only.
Right, that's what I wondered.
That's where the issue comes in, because you might have people that can get on Quantico, right, Marine Corps base, but they can't go to
Langley,
and get in there because they're not a citizen. So I mean, yeah, it's difficult sometimes, but I mean, I'm a networker, as you know, so I
he's a networker.
if I need to, I supplement it with a subcontractor who knows the base and already has the people who are cleared to for those U.S. citizen only projects.
So yeah, and I wondered too, because we just had a big intern expo where we had all the schools throughout the region come in and just to educate the kids in some sense about what all the jobs are that are out there for them. Including different types of construction. But I know you have a heart for mentoring and that you're on the board of a school in DC. Yeah. Do you want to talk about that a little bit and what that experience has been like?
Yeah, so I've been doing that for the past, I would say 4 to 5 years. It's Phelps Architectural Construction and Engineering High School. And so my history with that school is that my mom went there years ago, right? So my mom was born in until I was before I was born, she lived in DC. Okay. And so that's close to where she used to live. So what I do essentially is once a month, I would come into the school before COVID and everything. I would come into the school, and we would have different types of programs for the kids. So, I mean, a lot of times it would be the network of support partners. So it would be a bunch of different companies that we would all get together. From DC Water, DDOT, government agencies, all down to the small guy like me, right? We would just get together and say, hey, what can we do for these kids? So, or students, excuse me. They have things such as Engineering Day, where we set up in their auditorium, and so you'll have all of these big companies, almost like a intern expo. Wow! But we would all come in there. And you would have a bunch of middle schoolers that would come in and show their interest in HVAC, coding, underground utilities,
That's so
solar panels, whatever it is. And then you're kind of letting them know what's out there, kind of like what you're talking about.
And what they need to do to get to the point where they're hireable, right?
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
We do mock interviews as well. Okay. And, a lot of, there's also, there's been times where I've been on my phone, especially during COVID, and I've had all the students watching me walk around a job site and show them what this is, show them this is what maintenance of traffic is, this is the vest and hard hat that I wear and my, my boots and, all that different stuff. So, I mean, it's a passion for me because a lot of people have this stigma where they just think everybody in construction is just the guy with the hammer, right? Or the guy with a flag, right? And that's not true. I mean, it goes from permitting to lawyers to, anything you can think of, administrative people, all the way up to the, the owner of the company. Sure, so.
And I think the other thing that gets lost is that you can start, at one level and then move your way up. It's like an 100%. Apprenticeship track, and you can make a really good living in construction.
OJT, so you would get on the job trainings. And you start as a laborer, like in our in underground utility world. You start as a laborer, you work your way to a pipe layer, then you can work from pipe layer to operator or a foreman, then foreman to superintendent, and blah blah blah. Keep going like that. And that's kind of the track that I took.
Right.
So instead of staying in the concrete masonry world, like my family had been doing, I kind of, what really helped me was the roughly 2008 when everything kind of went down. I
the
said,
recession.
hey man, well, this is one thing that will never go away. People are always going to need their utilities. You're going to need water and things like that. And literally, I stuck with it since then, and I fast tracked.
That's so interesting.
Through that industry, and I love it. I still love it.
Yeah, and talk about, I mean, I'm sure part of that is your networking skills, right? You have the personality, you like people, you meet people well. Can you give some advice to people about how to make that work for them? I mean, because really you've been amazing. Everything you come to, you've got the big smile. People talk about you afterwards. I don't know if you're aware of that, but they're always like, wow, what a great guy he is, And I mean, it's true. You just kind of, you emanate this sense of, being a great person, but also friendly, approachable, all those things.
Right. Well, I say like the biggest thing for me is just to be genuine.
Yes.
Right. So, I mean, you can come in, or somebody can come in and give a fake smile for a while, but your face is going to start hurting if that's not real, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So I'd say, like, for me, it's my passion is people, and I get that like from my mom. My mom used to work for the Department of the Interior years ago, and she was just always a people person.
That's
and
neat.
I grew up with that, right?
Yeah.
My dad is the exact opposite. I'm built like my dad and look like my dad, have his name, but I am just like my mother in that sense, which is a great thing, and I'm glad that she gave it to me, because networking is not just about me getting ahead.
Yes.
It's to help the next person get ahead as well. So I mean, I think
important.
that's a huge thing that I've been able to do, is connect people where it doesn't benefit me per se.
Right.
Yes. But it does, right?
But
So
because the rising tide raises all
Yeah.
ships. I mean, that's how you build a community. And if the community is successful, that raises you up. And that's what people don't always understand. There's that transactional mindset, but you have the transformational mindset, which is really what people need, if they want to be successful and they want to help people, and you're a connector, which is great. That's what I wrote a quote down when we first met that said, you said, you love encouraging people to do what they're passionate about. And I love that.
Yeah. I mean, that's definitely true, because for me, it's like one of my passions is to work with students and people who don't know what they want to do. I mean, because I like being able to say, hey, here's a whole bunch of options. You choose which one's better for you. And if you don't know right now, try this one for a little while.
Right.
Then try this one, then try this one. I'm not trying to force you. It's the same thing with my children. I don't force them to believe one certain thing just because it's been in our family for generations. It's, hey, you got options here. What do you like? What do you think is cool?
Right. Because if you try to force somebody one way, if that's not their natural inclination, they'll never be happy or be successful. Right. Or if they are, it will take so much effort. Their lives won't be what they could be, and everybody should have that opportunity.
That's right.
So that's really neat. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Yes. One more thing about the networking.
Yay.
So if you see me at a networking event, talk to me, because I will hug you and everything.
And he will. It's true.
Because it's great. I mean, it's great. It's really a passion to be able to meet new people. So when I do walk into a room and I see, okay, I don't really know anybody here, it doesn't scare me. I'm sitting at the table with people I don't know. Hey, I'm David. You know, and then it kind of opens up the conversation, and who knows what can happen from there.
Exactly. I just think that's such a great attitude, and that's what, ideal member right here, this guy. This is what we're looking for. Well, thank you so much for coming in this morning. I really appreciate it.